Hi, I'm Valerie Persaud, and welcome to this segment of Inside Social Work. On today's segment, we have with us Miss Petra Mangum. How are you?
I'm blessed, thank you.
Miss Petra wrote a book, and it's called You Wouldn't Know If I Didn't Tell You. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a chaplain. My title for chaplaincy is Chaplain Petra Mangum. I'm also a motivational speaker and a new author to this book, You Wouldn't Know If I Didn't Tell You, and a certified HIV/AIDS educator and consultant. I am in the arena working with people who have been infected with HIV, and I think one of my jobs is to encourage them to want to live a long, healthy life.
Now, there's a story behind this book. You want to tell everybody out there what led you to write this book?
Yes. Well, what compelled me to write was the stigma that's attached to even knowing that you have been diagnosed with HIV, and then it's the people that are still perishing for lack of knowledge. I said, because I've lived such a long, healthy life, I need to share this information to the rest of the world, if I may, and let them know that there is life after HIV, and that you should not judge anyone because they were infected, because this virus can happen to anyone.
Now, you know what I found very interesting is on the front cover, there's a woman speaking, and then there's two men in the silhouette in the window. Now, this is something you don't hear a lot of. People think that when you get AIDS, you got it by being in a homosexual relationship. But you were a wife.
Yes.
You were married.
Yes.
And tell a little bit about your story.
Well, because you're married, you first of all think that that's the last thing you have to worry about is getting infected with HIV, which is another component that made me write, to let people know that this can happen to anyone, married or not. You can't be too careful. And I did find that a lot of women thought that they were exempt.
Safe, because they were married.
They thought they were safe because they were married. And one of my favorite places to go and speak to raise the consciousness of these women is at a church. I love to go to the churches because they're sitting in their seats feeling like they have nothing to worry about, this doesn't apply to me, and in most cases they're not even interested in knowing about how I contracted this disease, because they're married, but as soon as I tell them what my situation was, being a married woman,
You get their
now
attention.
things, yes, now things kind of pick up on them, and they, change positions in their seat, and now they're listening.
Now let's hold it right there for a moment. What do you think was going through their minds when you were talking about AIDS? Did they think that maybe you were a drug user, or that you contracted it some other way other than being married?
In most cases, when you actually disclose that type of diagnosis, the first thing they will think is that you had to do something to deserve it, and using drugs and or a homosexual lifestyle must have been what you were doing to get this. Yeah, they do judge.
Okay.
However, I had to let them know that I was a dedicated married woman who had a career job and did everything I could to please my husband. Never thought I had to worry about something like that.
Say that again to the women out there. Tell them that you were a dedicated wife.
Yes, I was.
In a marriage with a man.
Yes, I was.
Okay. And did not think that you had anything to worry about because you were in a marriage.
A faithful marriage.
A faithful marriage.
Which I thought it was. I thought that he was as faithful as I was, because he had a job that worked in the home. We were also doing teaching parent type of job with kids that had behavioral problems. So he was never wandering around in the streets or at the bars. I didn't have to worry about that. But 6 years into my marriage, he met a friend of his who thought, "Whoa, marriage is working for you. You look good. Why don't you come? Why we can't hang out sometime?" And because of that invitation, things started changing, and he started going to card games, and these card games elevated to not just one night, but 2 nights of card playing, and that's when it all started taking place. I didn't know what was going on there, just maybe drinking and having some fun, but it was the relationship with him and the other men that kept him there.
Mm.
I would like to just add, one night he came home after I had stopped by to tell him I was getting off work. He came home with soap on him instead of cologne, old cologne, which is what I smelled when I when I was telling him I'm on my way home.
Okay.
He had fresh soap on him, and I said, "You had to take a bath at the card game?" And that's really what stimulated a lot of suspicion. And I started watching carefully and paying close attention to his pattern.
Okay. So that was the first thing, is when he came home and he smelled like he had just taken a bath.
And it wasn't funny. I'm smiling now, but it was not a joke at all.
Now, what was running through your mind now? Okay, so you find out that here's my husband, and he doesn't smell like he usually smells.
Mm-hmm.
He smells like he's just taking a shower. What's running through your mind?
That he had to be doing something, that he had to freshen up before he came home. And I was actually asleep, and because he laid down next to me, and that soap, it must have been Irish Spring or Coast, and I lift my head up really quick to see what that was, because it was foreign to me. And I said, "You had to take a bath before you came home?" I said, "I just left you at the card game." And that's when it all started festering into a big, ugly thing. We no longer were intimate with each other, which was another form of realizing that there's something different going on in your marriage. And he had a very short patience with me. If I asked a question, I didn't get a direct answer. So it was a lot to deal with, and it took me about 6 months to realize that this marriage is going to the pots. And
so from the time that you found out that, with the soap, that he had taken a shower elsewhere, to the time that you found out that he was fooling around, what was the time span between there?
I would say another 6 months.
6 months.
Another 6 months.
Now take us down that road of that 6 months. What was going on there? Were you checking his phone messages? Were you calling his job to make sure he was there? Were you outside the card game, watching who's coming and who's going? Give us a picture of that 6 months.
Well, down that road, I became a born-again Sherlock Holmes. I was even going into his old neighborhood where he was raised up and asking them, "Did you know if he had a homosexual lifestyle?" I didn't know the people, but this is just how crazy I was, to get out of my car and ask strangers, did they know my husband, and did they know about his past experience. And it didn't seem crazy to me then, but I think about it and I said, these people probably thought that I had lost my mind.
How did you make that jump to determine that he was now homosexual?
It was I started going to the card games myself.
Okay.
Investigating,
okay.
Not to play cards, but I pretended to play, but I was doing more observation than anything. And at the end of the card game, I was asked by one of the friends that I was questioning his attire. He had a pair of very short shorts on, and I called them Daisy Dukes. And he asked me to introduce him to one of my friends. And my husband stopped putting the card chairs away and went to him and said, "You don't want to meet none of her friends, man." And when he said that, I looked at him like, why is he saying that? And then the guy said, "Why I can't meet none of her friends?" And he got almost nose to nose and said, "What did I say?" And from that day on, I knew there was something terrible going on. I actually was in a state of shock from that moment on. It was a state of shock. So it was telling me, no matter what, no matter if we're married or not, this is my main concern. And there wasn't anything else I could do. What can a woman do if her husband is interested in another man? There's nothing she could do to take that place. So I was defeated, and I just felt so lost in this whole experience. But I actually made it out of it. My husband died from AIDS in '92, and his lover died in '93 from AIDS. And I'm here today to share my story so I can prevent this from happening. If I can, if the people would just pay attention, it would prevent this from happening to them. They now have to pay close attention and not accept no wooden nickels in a relationship if a man is disrespectful.
Mm.
or doing something that she's not comfortable with.